Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Product Owner and TGIF episode of the week. This week we have with us James Gifford. Hey James, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Absolutely. So product owner is the topic. We'll talk about great product owners in a second. But James, share with us what might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
Oh, the anti-pattern of the product owner. I will say that we experienced plenty of paper product owners. You know, they've got a paper that says they're a product owner, but they're really the head of they're the face of a committee. You know, they're just appointed to appease things because we're doing Scrum. Like there's a lot of those kind of funny things that around like the role of the product owner that a lot of companies just aren't doing super well. But I will say that we were working with an organization that it's highly regulated. So in the United States, there's a FDA guidelines around software as a medical device. So you can write software that isn't technically a medical device, but it's considered a medical device by classification and the nature of the software because it could kill you. And so we had a product owner that in order to make a date, because they were getting pressure to achieve X release to, basically get their bonus at the end of the year. They did cut some corners, and it was after, 2 weeks after we released the work to production, we found that there was a critical patient safety kind of issue because they cut corners. And so when it came time for with the FDA guidelines, you need to do a root cause analysis and a corrective action kind of plan. It falls within the guides of a quality management system thing that you have to establish as well to meet those guidelines. And that root cause analysis session turned into a lot of blame storming, finger pointing, and a lack of the product owner just accepting that they did the wrong thing, to the point where we ended up having to bring it up the chain and protect the team. And it ended up having to be the senior leaders actually had to get involved and get to actually how to solve it without taking the finger pointing out of it, because we had, the line leadership as well as the product owners all digging in on what turned into family feud, as opposed to solving the issue at hand of making sure that this never happened again, which eventually led to some restructuring of how we did compensation. But there was that was probably one of the worst things I had ever seen. Was I cut corners to get my bonus, to then cause an issue that could kill somebody, and then not take ownership of said issue.
When you think about this, and let's imagine for a moment that maybe it's not a life critical topic, but not taking ownership is a problem for the team and for the product owner in the end. So when you think about that, how would you advise we address when we see this type of pattern where product owners, and maybe even sometimes the team itself is not taking ownership? How do you address this kind of problems today in your work?
A lot of the not taking ownership aspects of it, we have found that establishing clear, tangible outcomes that are tied to a person potentially having a team or not helps people take more accountability. When you're more accountable to problems to solve and or learning that wasn't the right problem to solve and providing the evidence of why we need to pivot, tying them more towards that outcome and basing their kind of what their achievements are around solving problems in the most fiscal manner, and making it more about the outcome for the company as opposed to the thing, has gone light years into changing the dynamic of accountability, because now everybody is incentivized around the outcomes that we're chasing, whether it's problems to solve, moving into a new market, validating that market is viable, as opposed to like shipping XYZ features. That was the real paradigm shift in accountability. People are also more motivated in that because they understand that, like, you're chasing, we hit on autonomy, mastery, purpose kind of early on, Daniel Pink. That does start to give folks that purpose. So a lot of your accountability problems come because of a lack of clear purpose, and sometimes compensation issues. But that's how we solve it today. People are more accountable when they know what impact they're having at work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that needs to be part of the conversation, because if not, if the outcomes are not part of the conversation, then something else will take their place. Like, for example, delivering XYZ features instead of, does it have the impact that we want to have when it comes to either sales or customer behavior or support calls, whatever the outcome is in the end. Of course, there aren't only bad product owners. Some product owners are amazing, great at what they do. So James, share with us one such example, the best product owner you've ever worked with. How did they work?
I will say that the best product owner I've worked with, we'll leave them nameless, but they were two lifetimes ago. No, it was one lifetime ago. They were a person that, they had come into the role from, like, we had a requirements engineering organization, and they had come into the role because they were just part of the business analyst team at the time. But this individual really honed their craft. They gobbled up everything that they could from, like, product marketing, and they just really dove into, like, trying to create that right kind of frame of mind around the actual product, and being able to speak to outcomes and understanding the business. And so they were able, when they interfaced with the team, they had all that that kind of the trinity of, like, enough technical expertise to be dangerous. They understood what the teams were building. They understood the market well enough that if they needed questions, they could know who to work with. They partnered extremely well with user experience. So when we needed UX that was outside of kind of our corporate, like, product, we used a product guide, so, like, the experience was consistent across all the products. But if it needed to deviate, like, she could clearly see quickly that, like, this wasn't going to potentially be the right experience of the things we had in-house, and collaborate with that product or collaborate with user experience. And, she was able to manage the stakeholders in a way that, hey, it's the job of the team to really solve the problem for our clients, and we're going to do it in a way that is good for the client, that's going to be the best for the client, but also good for the company. And bringing that element of stakeholder management on, really being able to help them see that, like, hey, this is the best direction for the client, and really that their client satisfaction and their long-term ability to stay, versus that stakeholder wanting that feature. I think that was one of the most impactful things that she brought to the table, was really creating that space for the team to really solve problems, at the same time being able to keep those stakeholders informed in a way that they were also delighted, because through the customer CSAT, the feedback, at the yearly conference they held is like one of those marketeering kind of deals. Like they would like when you have a client up giving a testimonial and they're citing that product person to the audience, it was like, huh, she is special. She has since gone on to go work at like Google. She was at Amazon for a bit, but like this humble mid-sized healthcare company produced this lady who is now running in the big leagues with some of them.
One of the things that I really like about this story is this contrast between what was, at least at some point, the theory that the Scrum Master is there to protect the team, to the reality, which is that actually the product owner has a huge role in protecting the team, specifically so that the team can focus on helping the end users achieve their goals, right? Like you just gave an example when, stakeholders come in with feature requests, and in this case, the product owner was able to say, hey, we, appreciate the idea. We'll put it into the backlog. Maybe, I don't know if she did that, but now we're focusing on solving this problem and the team knows how to do it. And we're sure we're going to deliver something that has great impact and is great for the company as well as the customers, right? And I think that aspect, you didn't say it explicitly, but for me, that was what really stuck from the description, is this aspect that product owners also need to be able to protect the team so that the team can work on solving the right problems for the end users.
Yeah, 100%. You're spot on. That same product owner, an engineer had brought to her, hey, we found some of our, like why we had some of our attrition. And there was a critical kind of, the way service had been documenting it, there was an issue in the software that the service team hadn't been documenting totally correctly. And so the developer met with them and then got it corrected. And it was like, here's that thing that's going to help with our attrition the most. And she was able to take that idea, kind of formulate how we could do that, and then be able to communicate that to the business to say, hey, we found this driver of CSAT and of our attrition numbers. We need to put your feature roadmap or like things you want to see. We need to put that on pause because like this is one of those things that helps the bottom line. To be able to literally listen to that person, not shut them down, not say, oh, well, we got to wait till 9 months from now to do that. It was like, no, this is a huge opportunity. The team found it. It's the right thing to do. I need to go shut down the stakeholders' feature roadmap because in about a sprint, they were going to be able to start working on a new feature. She had to go and just basically tell the stakeholders that, no, we're not doing that. Like we found this thing over here and that's what we're going after. It'll take around this much time and then we're going to pick back up your roadmap. But this is the direction the team is going.
Yeah, great example of that, protecting the team, but also because the team is protecting her by giving information and insights that help the product and the customer in the end. James, it's been a pleasure. It's been a whole week of stories and insights. So thank you very much for sharing that. Now, if people want to know more about you and the work that you're doing, where could they go?
Well, you can find me at scrumando.com. My Twitter handle is at Scrumando. And if you went on LinkedIn and look for me, you could just type in Scrumando and I'll pop up. I went in and edited the the URL in LinkedIn to be all one element there. I will be releasing flowtrain.io, which is where I'll be conducting. That's where I'll be my site for my professional Kanban training courses, and those are my socials.
Absolutely. And of course, people get in touch, and why not ask a few follow-up questions or get in touch with James. And I'll put the link to all of those in the show notes. Make sure that people can easily find them. James, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
It has really been a pleasure.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. we have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. So join us at scrummasterpodcast.com and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more full week of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.